Hi everybody, Jo here again. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you're feeling well and that your week started okay. Now today I've been asked about triptychs, and to be honest, these are lovely designs to make. They're quite trendy in home decor at the minute and have been for quite a few years. And it's just a nice way of changing your cards up a bit. And all it is a card design with 3 panels. Or quite often you can actually get canvases and you get 3 separate canvases to hang on the wall. So this is just one take on a triptych, and I'm sure there's probably other ways of pronouncing it, but for me I'm going to say triptych, so I hope you bear with me. And again, I've just come up with a way that I would create it. There's probably lots of other ways out there, and you know, this might give you an idea. If it does, that would be fabulous. And for me, I'm going to do a floral design, but you could do lots of designs. You could do a triptych landscape, a mixed media project, as I say, 3 canvases. I mean, really, you know what? I always say this. I come in just with little ideas to whet your crafty appetite. Get those juices flowing so that you just go ahead and play. Now, because I've got a card blank here, and this is a ready-made card blank, and this is a 10-inch by 7-inch card blank. But again, you just choose, you know, the card you need for your design. I knew I wanted to make more of a sort of a landscape design. So what I've done is I've got a piece of card which is 6 inches this way and 7.5 inches this way. And the reason I've chosen my 7.5 is I'm going to create the design on one piece of card and then cut it into 3. And obviously 7.5 will fit perfectly with 3 lots of 2.5 centimetres. So that's why I've gone for that size. And for me, the easiest way, so as I say, there's the finish, the design. The easiest way for me to create this is I like to create my full design first and only at the end do my cutting. And again, that's just the way my take on it. You may have another way. Yours might even be easier and better, who knows? Now I'm going to start again. I've got my floral stamps out, and I'm going to start with a beautiful English Bluebell. And I'm just going to turn my work this way. You know what I'm like. Now I'm going to use VersaFine Clair to stamp. And I know some of you have asked if I can show the colours before I start. And one of the reasons I don't always do this is sometimes I don't know what I'm going to use. I'm a bit funny like that. I don't know about you. I do find it difficult doing the same thing twice. I sort of change my mind as I'm going. But I guess that's just part of being a creative person. But I've looked in my VersaFine Clair, and I love to collect colours of these. And I've gone for my 3 main blue ones, which is Twilight, quite a dark blue. And then my Bluebell, which is a bright blue, and then the Warm Breeze. I love that for creating depth. Now I have picked out Fantasia, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use that. That's more of a purpley tone, so I'll probably just leave that at the side for if I need it, but I'm certainly going to use these 3, and probably the black, the Nocturnal, will make an appearance. So I'm going to start with the Twilight, the darker colour, and that's going to be for my main focal point, which is this lovely Bluebell. So I'm just going to stamp this up. I'm going to stamp a few of the Bluebell because, as I say, I want this to be my main focal floral. And I'm just going to alter the height and the angle of these. I want them to look quite natural, like they're just growing in the Bluebell woods. A few years ago, Carl came with me. We went to Belfast to do a workshop, a craft workshop. Oh, and I'm sure it was the beginning of May, and the Bluebell woods there, we're staying in a campsite. We went in our little van, and the Bluebell woods were just amazing. So I love bluebells. Now I don't want that's almost looking a bit too like I've planned it, a bit symmetrical, which I don't normally like. So what I think I'll do is I'll put a first generation there, and then we'll pop a second generation there. You see what I mean? That's just mixed it up a bit. While I was talking, I'd obviously stamped a bit more symmetrical than I wanted to, but again, that's what happens when you sort of distract yourself. I do that a lot, do you? I think not to do something and then without realising it, sometimes I do. So the next stamp I'm coming in with, I love this stamp set. It's called Seed Heads. And it's gorgeous because it's got a solid stamp and then one that you can colour in, an outline stamp. And it's just a lovely pairing. So we'll come in with the outline one first. And I'll come in with the black for this, the Nocturne. And I just want a couple of these. So I'm going to put one here. And I think I'll just have one more. Should I put it this side? I think I will. I think I'll pop it there. And then let's get the silhouette one. And again, I'm going to use black. I mean, you could stamp this in any colour. So let me think. I'm going to put one here. And let's just put one over here. And again, I'll turn it round because obviously I have it on the side. It's just the way my head works. So I'm certainly thinking I need some here, but again, I need to break that up a little. I think it's important, as I say, for me not to have it too symmetrical. So I've just broken it up a little. So let's go for, I certainly want one there. Just thinking a little one there. Just give that stamp a wipe. And then the other stamp I've used is this lovely Bluebell. And it's a small stamp, and I just think it goes lovely with our larger Bluebell stamp. And I'm going to use the Bluebell ink for that. So again, I'll just turn it to the side. And this is nice because it will give me a bit of sort of depth down here. And I sort of want to put this in groups. And this is more, it's sort of quite a silhouette and it brings quite a bit of colour to the base look. And first and second generation, even third generation look. And that's lovely. So if you're one of our new crafters, obviously where I stamp first, I've got the most ink on. And then second generation, I've got less ink, so it's lighter. And third generation, I've got even less ink, so it's even lighter. So you can see the perspective there. This one, the first generation, definitely comes to the front. And the last one definitely goes into the foreground, sort of behind. So that just helps with perspective. So I love the way that we're now building up, look, this area here. So I'm going to do that all the way along. Now again, I'm sure you've got lots of stamps that will be perfect for this design. So I'm just going to carry on. Oh, and I've got a bit of ink on there, look, so I'm just going to wipe that off. The last thing I want to do now is get a line across my work. We've all done that, haven't we? Or is that just me? I'll have a little bit here. Just want to move that way a little bit. Now Eric is asleep under my table and as always he's snoring a bit. I can hear him. So if you hear a funny noise, honestly, it's not me, it is Eric. Now the last stamp, I'm just coming in with the orchard grass. And for me, if I look at the design, I'm happy with this area here and this area here. But there's almost a bit of a space here. For me, too much white space. So I need something to fill that space. Now, the orchard grass obviously isn't very tall, but what I love about this is you can just use the top part of it. So I'm going to come in with Warm Breeze for this. And I'm just going to be mindful to ink up, look, the top part. And that means I can stamp just here and I won't get the stem. You know, sometimes when you're stamping at the top, you almost want this to look like it's in the distance and you don't necessarily see all the stem of plants when you're looking. And it's like when you see photographs and paintings. So I'm just going to add a few of these to fill in the spaces. Again, I don't want to overcook it. I want it to look a nice, and I'm just going to put a second and third generation up here. Now I'm nearly done with this. What I do want to add is just a couple of the same stamp in black. I've got a couple of spaces just to bring in, I've got a little bit of black stamping. And obviously when it's finished, look, it's going to go on a black matten layer. So it's nice to bring a little bit more of that black stamping in. So I'm just going to give my stamp a wipe. Even though my black is obviously darker than my blue, I don't like to contaminate my ink pads. So again, just inking up the top here. And there's a gap there, look, where I can just, and the beauty of this grass is, it's so wispy, it's perfect for filling these spaces in. So here, look. And if I turn that round, can you see how wispy it is? And we can even just get a little bit here, look. And it just gives that lovely wispiness. And I love that, the fact that you can see through bits in it, because you don't see all of it, it almost looks like it's moving. So we'll give that a bit of a blot. Again, the VersaFine Clair, slower drying ink, so try and get used to blotting your work. Just to try and make sure that we have less finger marks. And again, for me, that's starting to look lovely, but again, that white space is a bit too white. So I'm just going to pop the work that way, and I'm going to come in with the Blue Atoll, the Elements ink. And I've got my brush here, and I just want to take the start white off the bottom. And the reason I blotted it is I don't want this to smudge the work. And what I'm doing, look, always dabbing off in the lid, start at the base, and then I'm actually going to just come up over the florals, just to fill in that with a nice hazy. If I turn it round, can you, I'm not sure whether you can pick up the light, can you see the difference? Because it's very pale, sort of that's a nice hazy colour and that's quite white. Quite often pale doesn't show up well on camera. I'm just doing the same, always inking in the lid and then working my way up. I want more colour at the base. So again, I'm just going to come in with that blue at the base and then move my way up over those florals. And while we've got the blue, we'll get our acetate circle masks, and let's pop a moon mask, maybe there. And for me, just turn it round in the lid. I'm just going to hold that. And again, if I start at the base, gently flicking, and then come all the way around to the top. And then once I've got less ink, I can come out, and then hopefully that will give us a lovely hue look, that beautiful hazy. But I do want a little bit more blue in the sky. So I'm just going to, in the lid, and just come into the corner and then down the side. Turn my work round, just because for me, it's easier to turn it round. And again, ink up and on the corner. Such a beautiful colour, this. And the brushes are perfect for this, because again, if I can just show you, look at that, no lines, no marks, just absolutely beautiful. It's a lovely way of practicing using your stencil brushes. Now I just want to frame it a little bit more, so I'm going to come out in with the Midnight Blue. Now because I'm going to go around the edge, I just find one of our little blending smoothies is better for this. But if you're happy using your brush, again, it's whatever you like to use. Now the Midnight Blue is quite I should have warned you, shouldn't I? It's quite a deep colour. But I really want to add some sort of moodiness to this. And I'm dabbing off in the lid. But as I say, we are quite a deep sort of grey blue colour. But it just will frame the design and just create a bit more sort of depth and, well, moodiness is probably the best way I can, probably not even a word, is it? But working my way around, I always ink up on the corners and then just come across the top here. And then again, ink up in the corner, work my way back this way, and then see if I've got enough ink to come down the side. Pick some up off my mat there. Let's have a look. And I can just alter this shape as I want, look. Yeah, I like that. So we'll pop the lid on that. Again, try and get in the habit of putting your lids on. And we'll just, where's my spritzer bottle gone? We'll just clean this up. Just again, so I've got less chance of getting my hands in it and contaminating everything. Quick wipe up. So if you're crafting along with me, it gives you time to catch up as well. But obviously I do these all in real time. So this is what we've got so far. And we just want to add now those little finishing touches. And again, I want to do everything before I cut it. Got a couple of little bits there off my blending tool. So we want to add some colour to these. Various ways you can add colour. First of all, we've got our lovely watercolour pencils. And just to show you, if I'm using my watercolour pencils, I would go for a dark blue and a light blue. And I would just add my dark blue at the base of each one. And again, I'm doing this a bit speedy. And then I would come in with my lighter, just get my kitchen roll to lean on, come in with the lighter blue, and then colour the whole thing blending over that dark blue. And again, just to keep it all colour tones, I'm keeping this in the blues. But again, if you wanted a contrast, you know, you could put these in a different colour. I think the fact that, you know, you could do your solid ones in a different colour as well. Such a useful stamp. So pretty. Right. So that's the watercolour pencils. Now again, watercolour brush is in my pot. And I would just watercolour these. And again, you will take your time. And I try not to add too much water. And I try not to keep dipping my paintbrush in the water pot. Sometimes I think we can almost add too much water. Right, I think I've got them all there. So on the black ones, we want some highlights. So the next thing is our lovely pastel pencils. And for this, we're just going to use the white one, my favourite one. I use this more than any other. And again, so I'm just going to come in and add some highlights. And again, I don't want to overcook it. I don't want to go on every single flower, because for me, just the odd one, maybe here, obviously where we've got the moon, just for a bit more. You can add a little bit on the leaves if you want. I think I'm liking that. Now, I want to do some faux bleaching in the sky. So I've got my fan brush in my water pot, and this is just to add a little bit extra in the sky. And I just want to keep it up here in the sky. So I'm being mindful of where I'm flicking my water, sort of keeping my brush quite close to my work. And I'm just going to leave that and let that faux bleach. Now, I want to show you another way of adding colour. If you wanted to add a bit more sparkle to these lovely seed heads, I've got my blue Posca here. And this is the sparkle Posca. And what I can do is, I could put this straight on my mat, but for me, I found it, try and get in the habit of putting it on my acrylic block. And I've just got a little bit of Posca there. And if I just get my paintbrush, look, I can actually paint in these. Now I'm adding it on top of my pencil work to add a bit of extra sparkle. But if you wanted, you could do this instead of your pencils. I'd just like to show you alternatives. And when it dries, it gives the most beautiful sparkle. You can use your normal Posca pens for this as well. Now I also want to add some splatters with this, but I want to add a little bit of glitter as well. I'm sort of going for the full-on effect here. So what I'm going to do is add my glitter first. I'll pop that to one side. So somewhere in front of me, I've got one of my lovely Stickles. Here we go. And I'm just going to do my usual, because I don't want it to spit at the work, just going to add a little bit on my mat, look. And then somewhere I've got, here we go, just an empty water brush. There's no water in it and it says Stickles on it. So I know this is the one that I use for my Stickles. And I'm just going to pick up. And this way, I'm actually just going to paint the Stickles on. I just want it on the field grass. And what you'll find is doing this way, A, you get it exactly where you want it, but also it will dry quicker because actually you're using less. You don't have any of those thick. I do find if I try and squeeze it on my work, sometimes I get thick clumps of it. But again, that's just me. So I think, and like I say, for me, I don't want to overcook it. I love my glitter, but I don't want too much. Because what I want to do now is add this lovely sparkle. So I'm just going to come in with my brush. Now, I could use my Posca pen direct. But what I'm thinking is, because I've got this here, I don't want to waste it. So I'm literally just dabbing exactly where I want it. And if there's a bit in the sky, I just want a little bit down here. And you'd be amazed how long it stays on your mat, your little block. So if I have, when I finish this, I'm not going to mop that up. I shall stamp another stamp, probably the Lilium, and actually paint it in with this because I don't want to waste it. Right, so I'm just going to pop that to one side. I'm going to lift that up. Just wipe my mat again. Now I'm just going to very quickly put the heat tool over this, just to dry that faux bleach in a little, just so I can show you. So at home, my recommendation is leave this and let it dry naturally. I always think things are better if you let them dry naturally. Now, I just want to, if my Posca's dry, let me check my pen's working. What I did was I've added some white gel, and the white jelly roll actually works on top of the Posca. So again, that's worth noting. Mine's possibly not quite dry enough, but it will give you the idea. I'm hoping, can you see that? There is white Posca there, white gel pen there. And if you want to add a bit more onto here, you can. But I like the difference. I like to have one with my pen and one with my pastel pencil. But again, as I say, that's just me. And the last thing is I'm going to add a few white splats. Now, I always say this, at this point, if the white splats aren't your thing, you may want to leave it like this. I just wanted a few in the sky. Right, stop. Not overcooking it. So that's my design finished. And as I say, this you could leave as a design on its own. But to make the triptych, all I've done is, when this is completely dry, I've literally cut 2.5 inches, 2.5 inches. So I've got 2.5, 5, 7.5. If you remember, this was 7.5. And then using my lovely bippity boppity glue, because that gives me wiggle time, I've attached it, and again this is after when it's all dry, to some black card, and then I've added the little pound, the little mini butterfly stamp, and I popped that just across the two. I just thought it tied the whole thing together. And the last little thing I have done is decorated my envelope. And once again, I've just used, because this is going in the post, I've used VersaFine Clear inks because they're permanent, and a few Posca splats, again, the permanent when dry. So I know if it gets wet, that will be fine. So there's my card and envelope. And the beauty of it is, for me, look, when this is dry, I've got another design there. So I'm hoping you've enjoyed that. And I'm hoping you'll have a go at making a triptych. They are such fun to make. And again, it's just another way of just, when you're a card maker, especially when you send cards to friends and family, it's just a way of sending a different card, especially if they keep your card designs. How often do we need something different? And we haven't always got the resources to buy new stamps every time. So make a design that you like, maybe even a design you've done before, but this time cut it into 3 and make it into a triptych. So thank you very much for watching me. I hope the rest of the week is kind to you, and I'd love to see what you get up to. Obviously about card making. Anything else you get up to, that's up to you. As always, thank you for your support and friendship, and I do answer all your messages if and when I can, honestly. You take care, everybody, and thanks for everything. Love and hugs from me. Bye for now.